the quintessential Pyro melee. Everyone loves to have one of these on their team, and I'm not here to tell you Pyro is somehow a bad thing. It's not. But this video is focused on the Homewrecker, the Pyro melee that, while conceptually is actually really cool, has issues in terms of how it interacts with the spy matchup. The Homewrecker does double damage against buildings and 25% less against actual players, but the real draw of this weapon is that it can remove sappers. Normally only the engineer can do this, but pyros with the Homewrecker can as well. However, unlike any of the wrenches, the Homewrecker can destroy sappers with only one hit. In fact, it's the only thing in the game that can one-hit a sapper. The obvious draw of this weapon is pyros using it as a supportive tool to deal with sappers, when the engineer either can't reach a sentry in time, or is dead. It leans into the playstyle of Pyro being a bodyguard of important team members, especially considering Pyro is the spy counter. I've stated in the past that I actually like the existence of Pyro. While he absolutely has an advantage over Spy in the matchup, it's not as unwinnable as some people say if you know how to take advantage of their weaknesses and common mistakes. Pyros only have a limited range with the flamethrower, and you can abuse it by reminding them that Spy has a gun! You can also take advantage of their overconfidence in being able to kill a spy that you can lead them into an unfavorable position. There are ways to mess with them. Some people don't like Pyro because he's low skill, but like, okay? I main the hardest class in the game and I don't care. I don't main Spy because he's the hardest and I need to try look cool in a video game. I just like the playstyle. I don't care if the other classes are generally easier. It's good that there are options for players who don't want to take the game too seriously. Sometimes I myself like to play Pyro when I feel like turning my brain off. But one thing I do really like about Pyro is the many diverse ways of playing him. Or her. Like, honestly, Pyro is peak androgynous character design. You can play WM1 Pyro, Combo Pyro, Combat Pyro, Crowd Control Pyro, Flyro, French Pyro, and one of my favorites, Bodyguard Pyro. Essentially taking a group of important players, usually involving a medic or engineer, and doing your best to keep them protected from not only spies, but any other flankers as well as projectiles, keeping them safe while they do their work, just like this video's sponsor. Kidding. This is one of the many interesting ways to play Pyro, and it's completely fine for the game, so what's the problem with the Homewrecker if it complements this style? Yeah, the fact it destroys sappers in one hit. That's the issue. The engineer also has to hit the building at least twice to remove a sapper, meaning if they do it too late, they may not make it. With the Pyro, all it takes is one. I don't mind the concept of a Pyro weapon that removes sappers, in fact the Neon Annihilator also does this, but in 2 hits like the wrench, so the same thing is present. It's hard to tell if this was intentional or not, because it seems to be because it does more damage to the building and therefore sappers, assuming the interaction is coded the same way the wrench hitting sappers is. But the point is that essentially, the Homewrecker does the engineer's job better than the engineer. Now at this point you may be thinking, okay, I see what you mean. It is quite unfair that the Homewrecker can remove sappers in half the time. Except that's actually wrong, because you have to wait for the melee animation to finish before swinging again. And the actual hit occurs way before that. And so I timed it. I did this by hitting a wall in a local server so latency couldn't mess with the timing. Time starts on the first frame of the swing animation, and a hit is registered on the frame particles appear on the wall. As you can see, both hit the wall at the same time, since they both have the same swing speed. This stops the timer for the Homewrecker, but the wrench needs to make a second hit to remove a sapper. Now take a guess as to how much less time it takes for the Homewrecker to remove a sapper. Less than half? Less than a third? Nope.
Less than a quarter of the time.
The wrench took 61 frames. The Homewrecker took 13 frames. That's even worse than I expected. As the spy, you could have planned out your attack on a nest, killed the NG and got all the stuff sapped, only for the Pyro to give the buildings a quick tap and undo your work. This is why it's a problem. There's not much effort on the Pyro's part for these results, and there's not really much in the way of good counterplay. Okay, it's not like there aren't ways to beat the Homewrecker. There are rare instances where you can trick Homewrecker Pyros and get them killed as well, and by killing the NG, the building can't be repaired, so you could send your team to overwhelm it. But instances like that aren't very common, nor reliable. The spy has to do all this work to infiltrate the nest and destroy it from within, using cloak, disguise, stabs, the sap, or even the gun. All the Pyro does is press 3 on the keyboard and click on the building. Yay. Even if I don't mind that spy is harder than Pyro, there's a massive imbalance of effort here to the point the Homewrecker just feels cheap. Essentially just robbing the spy of the interesting engineer matchup. The Pyro should be held more accountable for dealing with the situation quickly. And before people say, "Oh, you're just saying that because you main spy and are biased," I'm the same guy who made this video, so you can't pull that card on me. Pretty simply, make it destroy sappers in 2 hits. Maybe 3, but 2 at least. Now, taking that long to destroy sappers can just be a hidden stat just to not clutter up the thing. That pretty much fixes the problem, putting it on the same ground as the Neon. But as a side thing, I think it would be cool to lean more into the sentry busting nature of the Homewrecker. No, not that type of sentry buster! I would add a 75% reduction in knockback from the sentry guns while deployed. This would allow the Pyro to better approach a nest to take advantage of the damage bonus, although no resistance is applied. This could make a decent Uber combo though. The bonus is only well deployed as to not be too unfair on the enemy NGs, allowing the Pyro to Uber in with the flamethrower. Again, this would make it and the Neon pretty interchangeable for the purpose of sapper removal, while both have their own other side gimmick to justify their existence. Like I said, the Pyro should not be able to destroy sappers faster than the Engineer can, especially less than a quarter of the time. I get the idea behind the Homewrecker, it plays well into the supportive / protective role of the Pyro quite well, but it of course does the job a bit too well. It's less of an interesting curveball for the spy to play around with the Engineer matchup, and more of a cheap middle finger to the whole thing. Whether it takes 2 or 3 hits to destroy would honestly need to be tested. Giving it 3 would put even more accountability on the Pyro, but the Pyro also needs to remember that if the NG is alive, you don't need to remove the sapper, just kill the spy,
he can keep reapplying them infinitely.
Hey, I'll be doing another Q&A at 100k subs, and we're getting pretty close to that goal. If you're already a part of the percentage that is subscribed, I appreciate it. Secondly, don't expect the Spy Psychology finale this year. It's not the only thing I'm working on either. I've got other projects on the side like this one. In fact, I had this half-finished script laying around for months. Anytime you ask when it's coming out, the answer will always be the same: when it's ready. The last episode spent around 3 months in production with a lot of on and off work, and let's just say the scale of the finale is noticeably bigger, and it's probably going to take longer. Anyway, that's enough of that. Look at this fan up!